I don't know if it's just me, but recently I've found more and more videos on social media that are about Christianity. And one or two people may be successfully annoyed. But many people my age, in their 20s, early 20s, especially in their adulthood, feel a bit lost these days, that they don't know where to go with themselves, that they are faced with decisions that they don't know how to make. And I had contact with Christianity and faith early on in my childhood, but then lost it a little over time and started reading the Bible back then too. And my goal at the time was to read the Bible through completely as a young, pubescent teenager at the age of 14, 15. And that was definitely still quite exciting at the beginning. But at some point in the back chapters of the third or fourth book, you get lost very quickly. And for me at least, that led to me stopping reading the Bible and turning away from the faith a little more and losing touch with it more and more. And now, the other day I was watching the videos on social media, especially on TikTok, so to speak. And as soon as I stayed on the first one a little longer, more and more videos came up that talked about the Bible, about Jesus Christ. And I got the extreme feeling that I wanted to deepen my faith again and felt the extreme need to start reading the Bible again, and not just to start reading, but to really stick with it consistently this time. It's only been a week now. But I'm much more enthusiastic about it this time, and not just interested in reading it, but above all, interested in understanding what's written there, implementing it in my life, and telling others about it. Otherwise, this YouTube video would never be made. However, I have chosen a slightly different approach than last time. Reading through the Bible from front to back can be very, very tiring and tedious, as the Old Testament in particular is sometimes more difficult to understand at the beginning than the New Testament. That's why I grabbed one of the most popular or famous Bible reading plans and just got started. But the point of such a Bible reading plan is that you don't just read through the whole thing from front to back, but rather that you have a mixture of Old and New Testament and get a direct reference to several different parts of the Bible. The reading plan begins by reading a chapter from the first book of Moses, the Gospel of Matthew, the book of Ezra, and the Acts of the Apostles every day. In other words, you have a broad spectrum from the beginnings of the Bible, from the beginnings of the Gospel, and from two other books, one from the Old Testament and one from the New Testament. And so this runs through the entire reading plan, where you read at least these 4 chapters every day. If the chapters are shorter, then it can also be the case that you should read 2 chapters from one book in one day. And if you do this for the whole year, you will have read the entire book by the end, i.e. the entire Bible. And I think even the Gospel and the Psalms are included twice, so that you can easily cover a whole year and are not finished after 280 days. And the important Gospel, where the story of Jesus Christ is told, is read twice. And especially from the first chapters of the Gospel of Matthew, I was able to learn a lot of things that you just pick up in this text, for example. It just deepens a lot more when you read and think about it. And if you take notes and try to implement this in your own life, then life doesn't necessarily become so much easier, but so much clearer, and you enjoy doing things so much more. You have so much more discipline to stick to things, and you have so much more time to deal with the important things. Because, for example, scrolling on TikTok all the time to find distractions just results in you not knowing what to do with yourself and feeling a bit helpless. But God says very, very often, especially in the Gospel of Matthew, right at the beginning, Jesus says, "Turn to God, bring your worries to Him, and He will take care of them." This means that all your worries are unfounded because God has a plan for you. And not only does God have a plan for you, but if you entrust yourself to God and trust His plan and go to Him with your worries, then He will take care of them too. And why I have the feeling that the world is slowly healing and becoming a better place again is precisely because many people, especially young people, are once again engaging more with faith, with the gospel, with the Bible, and therefore with a life according to faith. Because what an impression you get when you look at. I would say that after a few months or a few years of scrolling on Facebook, the whole generation has almost gone down the drain. so that everyone is just looking for short-term gratification? Hook up. Call looks at one-night stands to determine that dating life is no longer a committed relationship, and the Bible deals with precisely such topics as going out and many others. And if you stick to it, or try to live by it as best you can, then you will have a much more fulfilling and balanced life. And I have that feeling a little more in our generation today. I don't want to say that we are on the perfect path and that we no longer have to worry about anything, but I have the feeling that things are slowly improving again. And this good feeling definitely gives me hope, and has also made me read the Bible and act accordingly more often. I had problems with my weight for a long time. I'm not really overweight. I am quite sporty, I would say. And not only would I say that about myself, but that's actually how I look. However, I was never really happy with my body. I'm the classic skinny fat type, which means I'm not really muscular, but I'm not really fat either. But I am quite thin and have a bit of fat. Nevertheless, that was even worse many years ago. I've got a bit more muscle now, but I've never been able to say, Joe, I'm really happy with my body, and it's all down to the fact that I let my diet slide. And since I've been eating the Bible and sticking to it consistently, it helps me to stick to my diet without any problems. Or that's not quite right. I still have problems with it. Or the temptation and the desire for short-term satisfaction. For example, to eat something greasy again, to go to McDonald's, or I really like it when I go to the supermarket and always pick up a bag of Haribo and a bag of toffee or something and just eat it in the evening. But that's easily 1,000, 1,500 calories, which is not good for your body. And the Bible also says that you should treat your body like a temple. God gave you this body, not to treat it like it's the last shithole, but to treat it like a temple, like the temples that were built back then. And that's exactly how I live now, with this in mind, and it helps me a lot to keep going. And I've already lost 2 kilos in the last, say, 10 to 14 days. Of course, there's also a lot of water involved, but just this consistent adherence to my diet plan and not falling into these food cravings is a benefit that I only have God to thank for, that I have the Bible to thank for. And I also see so many young people on TV who have God to thank for things like this, who have achieved new things since they got involved with the Bible and faith, some of which they may have thought possible before, but somehow didn't achieve for whatever reason, or even achieve things they thought impossible. They thought were impossible, and that's exactly what matters, that we live like this here on earth, love our neighbor, and achieve things that we didn't think were possible. Positive things, positive impact on others, helping other people, and achieving things athletically, inspiring other people. These are all things that are not expected of us now, but that God also had in mind when He created us as human beings. And I realize that I'm still completely at the beginning myself and shouldn't really be talking much about what it has helped me with or where it is still taking me. Because after a week, you can't really say how positive a change it really is. But I have the feeling that it has. That this step and this decision, which was actually very conscious because I didn't have a Bible at home or anything, I really just decided one day to go to the bookshop, tell the sales clerk, hey, I'd like a Bible. Do you have one there? And then buy it and take it with me. And that same day, I started reading the Bible, and it doesn't always have to be based on intuition. And as I said, I'm just at the beginning myself, and even I find it extremely difficult to talk about what Christianity really stands for, or what Christianity stands for, or what it means. But it helps. And that's because I haven't dealt with it enough myself. But I realize that I simply feel that it helps me. And even if that's the only thing I can give you right now, and you've been toying with the idea of maybe getting yourself a Bible, I would also get back into faith. Because you've been neglecting it lately, then take that as a sign to open your Bible again. Download the reading plan. It's a free PDF that you can easily find if you Google it. And start reading the first few chapters of the first few days. Grab some highlighters, a pen, a blank sheet of paper, and write down what you are thinking about. Write down what you want to implement in order to live more according to it, to act more according to it, to avoid temptation, for example. Because, for example, even if you read the Bible from front to back, The thing that many, many young people struggle with these days is the inner bastard. That inner bastard that almost makes you explode like cancer, that makes sure that you don't do the things you want to do because it's the voice in your head that tries to keep you in comfort. It says, yes, you don't have to walk another 2 kilometers. Ah, come on. That sentence is no longer necessary. You've already done 2, haven't you? Yes, you don't even need to drive today because you already did it yesterday. And just like that, in Genesis chapter 3, verse 4, there is the serpent who persuades Eve to eat of the apple of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Adam and Eve were told by God that they should not eat from this tree. And right in the third chapter, so it's really right at the beginning, right on the second or third page, this serpent comes into play, advising Eve to do it after all, and basically telling her, yes, it's not that bad. Oh, who said it was bad? And that's exactly the voice we have in our heads, and it will never go away. That's also what many people misunderstand about motivation and so on. Perseverance, discipline. This voice will never go away. But God shows us so early on in his story that this voice exists and the devastating consequences of listening to it. This is much more decisive. Eve ate from this apple, and immediately afterwards God punished the 2 of them, putting them in shame before each other. They were naked in the Garden of Eden and only started to feel ashamed when Eve ate the apple and committed the first sin. And this is exactly what you can relate to yourself and your own life. If you think about when you yourself listen to this voice and are virtually unable to resist this temptation, or not only unable to resist it, but fall victim to it and do things that are not necessary according to your Christian faith or inner convictions, or not only not necessary, but bad. And that happens more often than you might imagine. And becoming aware of this by reading the Bible only has advantages for your own life. And I realized that far too late. I would say of myself that I realized far too late. I'm 23 years old now and could have started so much earlier and could have been so much further along in my relationship with God. But in the end, it's not so bad because you can still decide at any moment to give your life back to Jesus and to learn and act accordingly. And I can only recommend this to you. As I said, it's just a start for me, but it also made me want to talk about it, and I wanted to put another video on this channel. The whole thing would never have happened if I hadn't rededicated myself to my faith. So then the project might have fallen through completely, and who knows how many people would be listening to this. I hope I was able to help a little with this, and maybe ignite a little spark into a flame that will then also lead to you starting to dedicate yourself more to faith again, to read more in the Bible, and if that is the case, then I wish you much, much success. Please let me know in the comments what your relationship with God and your relationship with faith is. What do you think about the trend of more young people engaging with the Bible and the world becoming a better place again? Let me know what you think in the comments. Leave a like on the video. Feel free to subscribe to my channel if you want to learn more about the Bible, and I'll see you next time.